yo, she looks guilty as hell. And then I'm looking at it and I'm saying, did you really say that? Mm-hmm. Did you really say that Caitlin Clark should thank her Heavenly Stars that she wouldn't be worth anything if she wasn't playing in the WNBA? Did you really say? See, all of these things that Nafisha Collier brought up.
For nearly 3 decades, the WNBA battled for recognition. Then they finally got their game-changing superstar who's pulling in massive audiences and generating serious revenue. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. The league's own leadership might be actively working against their biggest asset. Stephen A. Smith just revealed something that'll blow your mind. The commissioner could actually be sabotaging the very person who saved your league. We're not talking basketball politics anymore. This goes deeper into pride, power struggles, and straight-up organizational envy.
Hey, Caitlin! Can you make it from there?
Hey, Caitlin, how about from here?
Come on, guys.
Yeah, she can't make it. No chance.
Caitlin, from me, don't let.
You got it.
I'm not even gonna ask.
Hey, Caitlin from here might be impressive. Am I right?
Whatever, Che.
From right here.
From there!
So you're probably wondering if WNBA executives have completely gone off the rails, or maybe we're witnessing the most ridiculous act of self-destruction in professional sports. Let me know what you think down below. Here's where this gets absolutely wild. Word broke about Caitlin Clark starring in another major advertising campaign with the Indiana Fever. Sounds pretty standard for a superstar athlete, doesn't it? Think again. This particular advertisement apparently triggered Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and her entire front office into what can only be described as corporate chaos. We're talking emergency meetings behind closed doors, heated conference calls, and what Stephen A. describes as absolute fury from the executive level.
Well, let me clarify first, because it's proxy season, right? No CEO do you just put the base pay in there. You put their bonus, you put their stock options, you put everything. Caitlin has the ability to make up to $500,000 just in WNBA wages this year. So, of course, they're just looking at a base which is collectively bargained. And actually, it's low because she's the #1 pick. She'll make a little more than that. But she also has millions and millions of dollars of endorsements. She's actually, because she declared to become pro, her endorsements are higher in dollar value. She has a global platform now, not just a U.S. platform. So she's going to do just fine, as will the top players in the league, as every league does. Also, there's comparisons to the men. Those men's leagues are 75 to 120 years old. We're tipping off our 28th season. I would say if you looked at them 28 seasons in, we're further ahead. But I realize we still have a lot of work to do, and it's all about the ecosystem.
Stop right there and consider how completely backwards this reaction is. Your franchise player secures a huge national advertising deal that showcases your sport to millions of viewers who probably never gave women's basketball a second thought. Any rational sports organization would be throwing a party right now. They'd be issuing congratulatory statements, boosting it across their social platforms, and leveraging every ounce of that exposure for maximum benefit. Instead, the WNBA leadership chose anger and bitterness. Stephen A. Smith wasn't just throwing around theories here. He laid out what he's been hearing from his sources. All season long, he's been Clark's most vocal supporter in mainstream media, but his recent statements paint a much grimmer picture. This isn't about gameplay controversies or rookie hazing rituals. This is about what he calls systemic dysfunction at the highest levels of league management. From what SAS is reporting, the energy radiating from WNBA headquarters isn't excitement about their breakthrough success. It's anxiety and resentment because one individual athlete has grown larger than the institution itself.
Commercial. Lisa Blunder was in the commercial, Travis Scott was in the commercial, Travis Kelce was in the commercial, Jason Kelce was in the commercial, like the podcast thing, which we're going to get to that.
Here's why this specific commercial created such internal turmoil. When Caitlin Clark shows up in these premium brand campaigns, whether we're talking Nike, Gatorade, or major corporate sponsors, she's not positioned as just another league participant. She's marketed as a cultural icon, a standalone phenomenon. The creative direction is movie quality. She appears dominant, self-sufficient, and here's what really bothers the suits, completely independent of WNBA branding.
commercial. It was super hype, and they also launched the campaign from anywhere, which is just perfect for Caitlin Clark. And obviously, fans have been waiting for a CC's signature shoe for years. It feels like years at this point. She is now 2 seasons into the WNBA, and we've gotten the signature logo, and we've also gotten some merch, but that signature shoe is what everybody is on the edge of their seat for. And she recently went on New Heights once again to talk about her signature shoe, and she talked about the new technology that will be going into this shoe.
Fans absolutely love seeing this level of production value. It gets people hyped about the sport and drives viewership. But for executives like Cathy Engelbert, this represents a fundamental shift in power dynamics. Think about it from their perspective. The league didn't craft that image. They had zero input on the messaging, and they can't dictate how the narrative unfolds. When the commissioner watches Clark in these glossy advertisements, she's seeing a player who's built her own economic ecosystem outside league control. Clark generates her own buzz, commands her own audience, runs her own empire. The frustration that Stephen A. keeps referencing comes from this complete erosion of traditional authority. Historically, professional sports organizations maintain control over their athletes because those players depend on the league for income and platform. Caitlin Clark has shattered that conventional relationship entirely. She's earning exponentially more through endorsements than her official salary, and that's public knowledge. This financial autonomy translates directly into influence, and influence threatens people who are used to calling the shots. Sources close to the situation suggest the timing of this particular advertisement really pushed things over the edge. All season long, the league has been frantically promoting a team-first message. They keep emphasizing the collective achievement, the historical significance, the depth of talent across rosters. Then this commercial launches and completely demolishes that careful messaging in 30 seconds flat. It reinforces what everybody already knows. There's one person actually moving the needle for this organization, and it's not anyone in a corporate boardroom. It's the sharpshooting phenomenon from Iowa, who can nail threes from the parking lot. The gap between the WNBA's amateur hour marketing budget and Clark's Hollywood-level brand partnerships is genuinely embarrassing for leadership. That embarrassment is morphing into hostility because it highlights their decades of ineffectiveness. For 27 years, the WNBA fought for mainstream relevance. One player arrives and achieves more cultural impact in 12 months than they managed in nearly 3 decades. That reality has to hurt. Stephen A. Smith has been absolutely ruthless in calling this out. He's emphasized how ridiculous it is to have a commissioner who's supposedly a strategic business mind getting emotionally triggered because her star player is receiving too much positive attention. His take is that the anger is actually masking pure incompetence. Every time Clark signs another multi-million-dollar deal or headlines another viral campaign, it exposes what the WNBA leadership failed to accomplish during all those struggling years. Picture this from Cathy Engelbert's position. You're the chief executive. Your job description includes growing the brand and expanding market reach. Then Gatorade, Nike, and State Farm accomplish more effective promotion of your league than anything your organization ever produced. That's professionally humiliating. It reveals you as inadequate for the role. Rather than studying their approach, rather than upgrading internal marketing capabilities to match that standard, the reaction is apparently resentment and pushback. SES has also drawn connections between executive boardroom attitudes and player behavior on the court. If the commissioner is showing disdain for Clark's commercial achievements, why would competing players feel obligated to treat her with professional respect? The negativity flows downward through the organization. When leadership refuses to celebrate their superstar, when they respond to her success with coldness instead of pride, it signals to everyone else that targeting her is acceptable. This dynamic might explain some of the excessive physical play and questionable flagrant fouls we've witnessed throughout the season. Understanding this anger requires examining WNBA organizational culture. For decades, the league operated under a particular philosophy with deeply held beliefs. They positioned the WNBA as a movement, a social cause, a collective fight for equality and recognition. Along comes Caitlin Clark, who embodies individual excellence and pure marketplace appeal. She doesn't conform to their established template. She disrupts the carefully maintained power structure. This commercial perfectly illustrates that disruption. It showcases Clark as a singular talent separate from the crowd. WNBA leadership invested years convincing the world that the product they're selling is institutional. They market the logo, the history, the collective narrative, but Clark's brand partners market her as a standalone superstar. This fundamental disagreement about what actually sells tickets is creating massive organizational tension. The old establishment feels disrespected and overlooked. They believe all their foundational groundwork is being dismissed because some Iowa native can drain shots from anywhere and happen to capture lightning in a bottle. Stephen A. Smith connected this to the Olympic roster controversy. That decision was made by establishment figures to preserve hierarchy and send a clear message. You wait your turn, you earn your stripes gradually. But advertising executives don't care about paying dues. They invest in what's relevant immediately, right this moment. This disconnect between the slow-moving, seniority-obsessed league office and the fast-moving, results-driven advertising world is causing internal warfare. The commissioner finds herself caught in the middle, and instead of embracing the new reality, she's fighting against it. Let's examine the financial implications, because professional sports is ultimately supposed to be about business strategy. Stephen A. Smith has repeatedly accused the WNBA of committing corporate malpractice, and their reaction to Clark's commercial success perfectly demonstrates this. In established leagues like the NBA or NFL, when a player lands a major national advertisement, commissioners celebrate publicly. The reasoning is obvious. It elevates the value of the entire brand, attracts casual viewers to games, moves merchandise off shelf. So why is WNBA leadership angry instead? Because they're not receiving credit for the success. Clark's endorsement income absolutely destroys her official league salary. This creates an embarrassing narrative for the organization. When mainstream audiences see Clark in million-dollar advertising campaigns, and then discover the WNBA pays her a base salary of roughly $76,000, it generates a public relations disaster. It highlights the massive wage disparity and reveals inadequate revenue distribution. The commissioner understands this problem. She knows every high-profile commercial Clark films serves as a public reminder that the WNBA fails to compensate its stars appropriately. It invites uncomfortable scrutiny. People start asking pointed questions like, why is this league operating on such a shoestring budget if their biggest draw is generating enormous attention and sponsor interest? Instead of restructuring the economic model or capitalizing on the increased exposure, leadership apparently gets defensive and hostile. They would seemingly prefer Clark to be less famous, so they wouldn't face these difficult financial conversations. That represents scarcity thinking, fighting over table scraps while Clark is creating an entirely new revenue stream. Let's focus specifically on Kathy Engelbert's performance. She was recruited from Deloitte as a corporate executive type, someone who theoretically understands analytics and business growth. But she's been completely overwhelmed by the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. Her handling of this commercial success has been awkward and tone-deaf. Remember, this is the same commissioner who fumbled a straightforward question about racial hostility directed at Clark during a national television interview. She attempted some generic corporate response, and it exploded in her face. Smith suggests Engelbert is lashing out because she knows her job security is questionable. WNBA team owners are business-minded individuals. They can read attendance figures. They see the chartered flights Clark forced the league to provide, the sold-out arenas, the merchandise flying off retail shelves. If the commissioner is perceived as an obstacle to growth, if she's seen as petty about advertising success, rather than leveraging it strategically, she won't survive long in the position. The anger probably masks fear that she's being exposed as the wrong leader for this transformative period. Clark represents a pace of expansion that Engelbert seemingly cannot manage effectively. This commercial symbolizes that acceleration. It's polished, immediate, globally appealing. Meanwhile, the WNBA's official promotional content often appears outdated and years behind current standards. It's a clash between competence levels and aesthetic vision, and the commissioner is losing decisively. Rather than rising to match Clark's energy and production value, reports indicate she's simply bitter about being outperformed by her own player. We need to use the term jealousy because nothing else accurately describes this situation. Stephen A. Smith has used that word. Charles Barkley has used it. Typically, we discuss players being envious of each other's success. What Sayas is revealing now is that this jealousy extends all the way up to the executive level. Why would a commissioner feel jealous of her own star player? Because Clark possesses more genuine influence and TRO power than Engelbert does. When Caitlin Clark speaks publicly, the entire sports world pays attention. When Kathy Engelbert makes statements, people either ignore them or don't even recognize who she is. That's a harsh reality for an executive, who's accustomed to being the authority figure. This new commercial solidifies Clark's position as the undisputed face of women's basketball, regardless of what organizational charts indicate. The front office spent years attempting to manufacture stars through marketing campaigns, trying to dictate to fans who deserved their support. Then, Clark appeared, and it happened organically, authentically, unstoppably. The rage represents the rage of a control-obsessed manager who's lost all leverage. They cannot dictate Clark's wardrobe choices, her public statements, or her endorsement partnerships, because she doesn't require their approval or their financial support. This independence is viewed as a direct challenge to their institutional authority. We see this dysfunction play out in petty ways, like the documented delays in WNBA official social media accounts posting Clark's highlight reels compared to other players. Fans have been tracking these patterns all season long. It's childish and unprofessional, and it originates from the executive level. One of the most revealing elements of this entire controversy is the league's non-response. When this new commercial launched, did the WNBA's official accounts share it with their followers? Did they issue congratulatory statements about their star expanding the sport's cultural reach? Did they publish press releases celebrating the corporate partnership? Absolutely not. Complete radio silence. In the NBA, when superstars release new signature sneakers or major advertising campaigns, the league amplifies that content because they understand it benefits the entire ecosystem. The WNBA's silence regarding Clark's commercial achievements speaks volumes. It confirms everything Stephen A. Smith has been reporting. You only ignore your biggest star's accomplishments if you're resentful about them. This silence is actively damaging the league's relationship with its expanding fan base. The millions of new viewers Clark attracted aren't naive. They recognize the double standard. They see the hostility. They're beginning to perceive WNBA leadership as antagonists in this narrative. By refusing to embrace the commercial success, the commissioner is forcing a confrontation. It's establishment versus phenomena. And as Stephen A. Smith warned, that's a battle the WNBA will absolutely lose. You cannot fight cultural momentum. You cannot resist the zeitgeist. Clark is the zeitgeist right now. We need to connect boardroom resentment to on-court violence, because this represents the darkest aspect of this theory. If the commissioner and league executives are openly bitter about Clark's commercial appeal, it sends a message throughout the organization. It's acceptable to target her. If the commissioner treated Clark like the valuable asset she clearly is, it would establish a tone of respect and protection around her. But by acting cold, by apparently seething about her marketing achievements, Engelbert effectively removes any protective barrier around Clark. We've witnessed the excessive hard fouls. We've seen blindside collisions and eye pokes. Following every incident, the league's disciplinary response has been sluggish and inadequate. Saz argues this is all connected. The leadership doesn't want to shield a player who makes them feel incompetent and irrelevant. They're allowing playground rules to apply to Clark because somewhere deep down, maybe they want to see her knocked down so they can say, see, she's not that untouchable after all. But every time she recovers and films another commercial, it proves them wrong all over again. Stephen A. Smith just revealed which direction they're choosing, and it's absolutely the wrong path. If this breakdown opened your eyes to what's really happening, hit that like button and subscribe, because this situation is nowhere near finished.